Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we've got the legendary producer and, someone's going to help you, guide you in how to develop books and some other great ideas. Aurora Winters, welcome to the show.
Great to be on the show with you, Anthony.
We start to look at all the stuff you've done in your serial entrepreneurial life. When we start talking about today, we really want to dive into more what these authors are doing in creating great books and bringing great books to the marketplace, but they're struggling to make any revenue. And I want to kind of gear our conversation today to help writers start to really generate the kind of revenue that they deserve for the ideas that they're creating.
Awesome. So I'd be glad to help everybody turn their words into wealth. As you and I chatted about before we started, we're both serial entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs solve problems at a profit. So if you want to write a book, what problems are you solving? Think like you have a heart of service, Anthony, and I love that. So I think as an author, we want to have a heart of service. How can this book solve a problem? Who is it exactly for? And don't try to be all things to all people. Don't try to solve all the problems that you have solved in your decades of life. Be clear who the book is for and what problems that are top of mind, that are urgent, that are painful, that are costly, that you are solving. And then there's 7 different ways, at least, to monetize a book. But in my book, Turn Words into Wealth, I talk about 7 different proven paths, proven recipes to turn your book into 7 figures of revenue per year. Now, the 8th way is by selling a bunch of books, which David Goggins and other people have done. But before we go into the specifics of any one of those ways, it's got to be a good book. It's got to solve a problem. And I love to invite people to know that their intellectual property is super, super valuable. So, for example, George Lucas I think it was about $500,000 he was offered as director. And instead he said, oh, I'll just keep rights for the merchandising and for sequels. And that one choice, he took a $400,000 loss hit up front, but as a consequence, he made billions. J.K. Rowling famously kept the digital rights to her Harry Potter series, and again, billions. So don't underestimate the value of your intellectual property, and also consider different ways that you can give a taste of it away for free, like you do, Anthony, on this excellent podcast, but also some people are going to want that same content, but delivered in a white glove or VIP fashion, or with an event, or with done for you or done with you. And those kinds of offers can easily be, 6 figures. So you can give a lot away for free, have a heart of service. But some people who are already running 7 or 8 figure businesses are going to say, hey, Anthony, would you just come on board and train my team? And we'll give you, 100,000.
I mean, look, I know that, as an entrepreneur running companies, I'm always looking for great content for my people. I think, when you look at what you're talking about, look, 8 streams of revenue, most authors aren't even thinking that. They're thinking, I'm going to get a book, I'm going to put it on Amazon, I'm going to be wealthy, I'll be in the Bahamas, I'll see you then. And the truth is that usually doesn't happen.
Exactly. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to want to write a book. 80% of people want to write a book, and I encourage people to write books. But if you are also a leader, an entrepreneur, a CEO, if you are also intending to make some changes and start a movement, then think through what else you can offer. The highest paid profession is being a public speaker.
Right.
From the Ryan Holidays to the David Goggins to the Mel Robbins, these people earn a chunk of change every time they open their mouth for, a 60 or 90 minute talk. It can be extremely substantial revenue. But also consider, do you want to be a coach? Like, I'm a media coach and a publishing coach. So I love helping people one-on-one, just discover the gold in their story and get really clear and concise what the gold nuggets are. And then I love helping them turn that into a book. And I love promoting and publishing books and creating videos and doing content. I love that. So that's what I do. But consider for yourself, maybe you actually want to go in with a team and solve that problem. Or maybe, Anthony, you want to go in and, train a whole group of people. I know you've got some trainings online at very affordable amounts, but there can also be the VIP solutions at higher amounts. So I can walk through the different ways, but the most important overarching concept is to understand that your book is the start of a relationship, not the end. It's the
So when you say
start of a
start, it's a
relationship. Yeah,
start relationship with your audience, with the people
exactly.
that with your revenue stream. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that you're right. I think a lot of people think it's the end, right? That I'm gonna write this book and that's all I got to do, and they're working years, sometimes years on these books,
Yeah.
and they get to the end of it and they put it out there, crickets, and that depression kicks in. So let's talk about why you say it's why is it the start? How does that start to break the ice with the audience?
Well, if we look at Harry Potter as an easy example that everybody knows, right? So there were books, and then there were movies, and now there's the Universal Studios, Harry Potter rides, and you can buy Harry Potter wands and Harry Potter costumes. I had a costume I wore. Acknowledging Hermione for Halloween. So think about all the merchandising, all the products, all the ways that something can be delivered. Uh, Perhaps a more relatable example, your book solves a problem. So, for example, in my book, which you see behind me there, Turn Words into Wealth, does solve the problem. Tell me, Aurora, how I can create $1 million message, give me some examples of $1 million messages, and show me 7 different proven ways that other people have monetized their book and made 7 figures per year with it. It solves that problem. You can be happy and go on your way and execute that. But some people are going to say, hey, would you just interview me and help me create my book? Would you do the marketing? Would you be the person who tests the title and the subtitle and the cover image? Would you help me figure out my back end and what I'm going to be offering? So that's another way of an example. So whatever problem your book solves, I mean, the first book I published in my innocence, I really thought, okay, that's good. All people need to do is read the book and they will solve the problem. But some people are going to want that same information, but delivered in a different format. They're going to want to come to a retreat with you. They're going to want to come to an event with you. They're going to want one-on-one coaching with you. They're going to want a done with you or a done for you VIP white glove solution. So
Yes.
whatever problem you're solving, solve it in multiple ways at multiple price points. You can have free, like your podcast is free, but there should be an invitation to go to the next step and the next step and the next step. Every time you solve a problem, you actually create the next level of problem to solve. So a simple example, the first problem people have is, I don't know what to write about. I don't know what my book's about, and I'm not a good writer. Okay, when we solve the problem of creating a beautiful book for them that really solves a problem and is tailored to the exact market, well, the next problem is, oh, I don't know how to market a book. Can you market it for me? Right? And then the next problem is, gosh, now I'm an author of a best-selling, award-winning book, but I don't know how to get on podcasts. Can you book me on podcasts? Can you give me media training so that I'm really solid? So these are just examples from my business, but whatever your business is, whatever problem your book solves, think that through and have an invitation for people to go to your website, maybe download a free checklist. Like I've got, if people go to turnwordsintowealth.com, for example, they can get the whole book, Turn Words into Wealth, for free. So think of some ways to make it the beginning of a relationship.
Well, by the way, audience, I'm going to put a link to that down below. So if you want to go get a link to her website and how to get a free copy, I'll have that in the description down below. Click on that. You'll be able to go there. The start of that. I tell people all the time, I didn't understand the value of a coach. From the other side of coaching, before I started coaching, I couldn't understand it. It was like there was this one inside of me that I got this. Maybe ego. You could call it definitely ego. I got this. I know what I'm doing. I got this. To this side of it, after I've gone through coaching with multiple coaches for different aspects of my life, my business, my family, my career, my relationships. Today, having those people that, maybe it was something when I was younger that felt like I was missing, like it wasn't a good thing to do that. Like you went to therapy when you were broken, right? And right there, that's kind of what it was. Hey, you're a troubled kid. Maybe my first interaction with a coach was a therapist, and maybe because I was an angry little kid, my mom said, "Well, you probably need to go, see a therapist for that." And so maybe there was some shame in that. And today, I don't look at it that way. Today, I look at it as, look, all the major athletes, anybody who's ever, I mean, you look at a guy like Michael Jordan. right? He had Phil Jackson, right? The things that a guy like Phil Jackson could do to, for a guy like Michael Jordan, if they have coaching together,
Yeah.
where am I resisting and why am I resisting? What's the resistance to that? And I think that's what you do is really you bring that blueprint, that coaching piece, that part that, it's guiding that entrepreneur.
Exactly right. And people don't have time to make all of the rookie mistakes in every single field that they're interested in. Right. So, I mean, I've spent decades learning how to write, how to be a TV producer, what makes good communication. And I also love people. So I'm a trained coach. But most people don't really want to spend decades learning how to become a great writer. They just want to get their message out. And I'm glad to help them with that.
Yeah, which is fair enough. That's the shortstop to getting it done, right?
Yeah.
The bringing on a support person for that. Like if I would have known that then, I don't know. I don't think I would have resisted it, but it took a couple of iterations of maybe get my nose bloody till I could see it. I mean, same thing with the business, where I literally had to go through the school of hard knocks to get there. And then all of a sudden you go through this and you're like, look at that. I just 10x our income. I just went from what was $1
Yeah.
million to $80 million, right?
Love it. That's a great example. And you credit coaching to helping you make that huge leap?
Absolutely. Look, without it, I couldn't see the things that I was causing to hold us back. Right, as the leader of the organization, I couldn't see my own issues, and I think that's one of those places where, um, great coaches do that for you. Right, they push you a little bit. Right, they help you. Someone you trust, it's okay to make you feel uncomfortable. Right, but someone does it in a loving way that, my judgment is, maybe in our tribal days, you had that experience where, the elders needed the youngsters to survive, to help them survive, right? They were going to, they had to take care of each other or the tribe wouldn't keep going. In today's society, it's hard to find those people that you can trust to
Yeah.
guide you, right?
Well, I think it really helps to be aligned in your values. So every morning I listen to the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, which you can find on YouTube. Sarah McLachlan sings it so beautifully. There's other renditions that are lovely. And I listen to Charlotte Church sing the Lord's Prayer. So I'm grounded in I'm here to serve. And that just gets my day off to a great start. It just takes a few minutes, then I meditate and journal. And when I got my MBA in 2015, I asked God, I'm like, how can we use this one little human being who's on planet Earth right now to make the biggest difference? I love communication. I've published 10 books. I've got award-winning screenwriter. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love solving problems. I love people. Use me, God. What would be the best use for me? And the answer came back quite clearly, not like a voice, but just in my heart clearly. If you can help people who are up to something, if you can help leaders who are already making a difference in the world, make a bigger difference by getting their message out there more clearly and touching and impacting more people, that's a multiplier effect. So that's how I'd like to use you. And that's what I'm up to now.
Well, and that and giving it back is how we keep it, right? By
Yeah.
I really do believe that as we give it away, we get it. We get it. In fact, I think the gift is that as we give it away, others get that you get it, and we actually get it better, right? We actually start to get even better at it as we start to work with others to support them through that process, and that's kind of fun to have that. So you've taken all your years of experience and you put together these great books to guide people. Let's talk a little bit about kind of how that journey has gone for you. Where did you know you could do that? Kind of give me a little bit about how that started.
Well, I would love to put a pin in that question, if you don't mind, because I have a
Sure.
burning question, if I may
Go,
be
go, go, go.
permitted. So you were mentioning before we started recording about your TV series that you've already recorded.
Yeah.
And what landed with me is, wow, you could do a series of books, or at least one book about that. And if we could find the thread that is you can do this too, the you can do this too thread that Anthony and his family are showing up as an example of how you can travel and make a difference. Like it could be a little bit like, I don't know if you've read Hal Elrod's books, The Miracle Morning. Like he's got, I don't know, a dozen books now about the miracle morning. And the books are so simple. They're really to start your morning right. Your concept is even more robust than that because you had the 4 things or 5 things that you did. You want to just repeat what those were for the
Yeah,
benefit
no,
of the people who didn't catch the beginning before we started recording?
no. So for me, it was really about, you know, going around the world and really starting to see people, right? The gift for me was I had gotten sober a bunch of years back, and I thought the whole reason why I did that was life kind of became this kind of Groundhog Day, right? Kind of this behavior was kind of groundhog, right? And I thought if the big adventure is really going out and being in life, and one of the things I loved doing was I love understanding, people's vision of a higher power, right? And there's just so many different visions of that. And so my wife, I said to my wife, I said, I want to go around the world. And I did that, right? Like I put the trip together. She put the trip together. Really, truth is, she put it together for me. She's a magician when it comes to travel. And just because I could pay for it, I took my family. It was, now you can imagine, we had planned 18 family members to go around the world with us, right? I mean, that's a lot of planning. And we
That
booked
is.
it. We had the tickets and the hotels and I had everything paid for. And it felt a little empty. Like just because you could afford to do that, just something was missing there. So we thought to ourselves, why don't we add in a piece of some study, right?
Mhm.
I've always loved reading religious texts. Not that I'm very religious. I'm not at all. I'm very religious, but I love seeing religion from their point of view. I can see their culture and their history. And when you read the religious texts, you can really see it's all very similar to me, the way they are. So I thought, why don't we go and study or be with the people in their religion in those countries that we're going to? And we added that on. And then we also thought, since we're going there, why don't we try to find something good to do, something to give back in that and make that actually the fun part. My kids are like, Dad, you want to do what? You want to like go clean beaches and you want to go fix schools and you want like, we're on vacation, Dad. I'm like, yeah, I think this could be kind of a fun adventure, right? How could like giving back
Yeah.
be more fun than anything? And that's really what got kind of spurred onto that. And then they're like, well, we'll do that, but what's in it for us? I said, well, how about we do something really big, like a big adventure in every country? Like we do some cool, we'll go skydiving or we'll go swim with the sharks or we'll do something really kind of fun in each and every country. That'll be, over the top. So that's how the trip around the world, the TV show, Family Style came to place. And that really led itself to something that I could not have imagined when we decided to go around the world. Like I couldn't, on that side of this, I couldn't have thought about it. On this side of it, you're like, oh, of course that's what you want to do.
So, what I love about this is it's more than a TV show. It could be the start of a movement. Like, I
That's right.
think right now people are hungry for going back to good values, like family values or family
Yes.
style. And, I studied happiness extensively. And part of, like, if you wanted to just have 4 elements of happiness, you're hitting almost all of them head on: faith, family, friends, and work or something meaningful, right?
That's right. That's right.
So you could consider the possibility of this is more than a TV show. This is launching a movement, and you could then be an invitation for people. How can they incorporate faith into their adventure with their family, or how can they incorporate faith into each week? How can they give back? How can they have an adventure? How can they incorporate friends and family? And I love it. I think there's something really interesting there. It should, obviously, in my completely
Well,
biased point of view, it should be a book or a series of books, but it can also be a challenge, an invitation, a movement to give other people more meaning. I think people are so hungry for meaning.
the gift of it was, look, when you're going through it, all I can tell you is when we were going through it, right? The first days of how do we find a charity to go do something good, right?
Mhm.
Because my wife and I like to give back. It's really important. The world's been really gift us with lots of great gifts, and we want to give that back. So just even the thought of doing that will bend your brain. Like here, that's an idea. Let's go give back,
Yeah.
right? To grow the idea, there's a little bit of walking through broken glass to get there, right? I mean, there's a little bit of like, well, really, you really want to do this, and like you talk about with the kid, Dad, this seems like so much work, and we don't want to do
Mhm.
that. But the truth was that when we got done doing it, maybe the thought of it sometimes felt overwhelming. Like maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe it's too much. Maybe we should just go sit on the beach and relax. But on the other side of actually doing it, stepping through the glass, you got to the other side of it. And the thing that everybody remembers about the trip was the work that we did, the look in people's
Mm,
eyes. We went to the school in India where the kids were so poor. When I say so poor, you'd go to someone's house and they would be in a 10 by 10 area in a hut with no power, no running water,
mm.
everybody's sleeping on the floor. And, to be able to work with those girls, there was a girls' school in India that we worked on, and to be there and watch how important education was to them.
Really?
Like you could tell this was the ticket for their getting out of this miserable existence. Like, and their yearning to learn, right? This was going to get them and their future generations out of this mess.
Yeah.
And so like I would tell you that my kids look back and go, that's probably one of the coolest things to remember, right? That school and looking at those little girls' eyes and just the bright, shiny possibilities that were getting created because of this cool school or the orphanages that we were in or, whatever the places were. It's hard to go through it at first, but the other side of it is the gift you carry for the rest of your life.
Well, it sounds like you got the gift of fresh eyes, right, through that experience. When I was a teenager, I went to Indonesia. My parents were on a CEDA, Canadian International Development Agency project. And I was so shocked that people were starving in other places in the world. We stayed in Jakarta in the Borobudur Hotel, which had, I think, 5 Olympic-sized swimming pools, uh, biggest breakfast buffet that was just um, out of this world, 6-star. And then outside the chain link fence, people were digging beside dogs in the garbage for food. People deliberately maimed their children to make them better beggars. This blew my mind and shocked me and devastated me, but also gave me deep gratitude for what we have. We take for granted, the roads, the clean water, the education, the fact that we don't maim our children to be better beggars. Like we have it so good in North America.
We're gifted, and all of the above. Like watching those. We've worked with that girls' school since then,
Mm.
and to watch the progression of that, continues to be. You're driven. At first, you're driven by a little bit of fear. Like I don't want to watch the poverty, but then you're pulled by inspiration by watching
Yeah.
these girls break through, and 98% of them all go to some sort of education, continued education, and you think to yourself, man, that's going to change the world, right? And
Yeah.
I think all of us want that. I don't believe that if we rip off all the fear that people are going through, maybe people say, oh, people are greedy. I'm like, yeah. I think it may show up that way. It may report that way when you look at them quickly. The
Mhm.
truth is, people are just afraid, and if you were to give them enough gifts, so they're not worried about survival. That truth is, I think humans are really giving.
Yes, I agree. As long as their basic needs are met, because people
Yeah,
are very frightened when they're backed against a
yeah,
corner and
yeah.
feel that they're hopeless and have no options. But I'm excited about the world. I'm optimistic about how we can make it even better, kinder, and more generous. And I think education and experiences with other cultures are really key.
I sometimes wonder what would happen if we were to take people and people that are struggling the most and put them on a plane and take them to places and have them see a wider view, what the
Yeah,
impact of that might be for us overall.
yeah.
And I think we're seeing that. I think you're right. I have faith in the world. Sometimes people bust the chops of young people, and those people are scrolling, and they don't. I'm like, I think they're wonderful. Those magicians. I think it's overwhelming to be in a world today that's changing so flippin' fast.
We
But
didn't even get to talk about AI yet, and it certainly is changing fast.
well, so let's get here. Let's get into that. Let's get back in the book. Here, first of all, I think our where you're going and who you are is you can see that in the work that you're doing, helping others really create great visions. I think that's the magical part of an entrepreneur like you. You're taking these ideas and helping people take these ideas out of the ether, right,
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and you're bringing them into an existence and making that happen faster and bigger and bolder. So let's get into that a little bit.
Well, as an example, like we mentioned earlier, most first time authors spend 3.5 years to write a book. A typical book, like this book, Thought Leader Launch, or like Turn Words into Wealth, is about 50,000 words.
Mm.
Most first time authors cannot write more than 500 words a day, but they can talk 8,000 words in an hour.
Yeah.
So most people in their area of expertise can talk up a storm if they have somebody listening, asking the right questions, who has the blueprint of where the book is going. Then say a book is 10 chapters. It could be 10 1-hour podcast-like episodes. I interview people. They can easily talk 8,000 words in an hour, and it's hard to get them to shut up, in fact, because they have so much to say, right? But if you are interviewing them, and I decide with my clients in advance, what is the problem this book is solving? What is the problem each chapter is solving? And then I interview them, and then we can turn that into a book easily. So shave off years on the whole process. The other thing that I love doing, and AI does help with this, is the typical conventional way of doing a book is you work on the book, then it finally gets published years later, and then after it comes out, you start promoting it. I thought that is a stupid way to do it. You should start promoting it as you're doing it. So as I'm interviewing people to create their book, that makes like 10 or so podcast episodes. Immediately, we can start sharing those. We chop those up into little segments, sometimes even 30 seconds or 1 minute sound bite. So we can make hundreds or even thousands of pieces of social media content from the process of creating the book. And people's expectations around short social media clips or even an hour podcast, they expect a conversation. They expect I can't remember the name of the author, but that's fine on a podcast. In the book, we research it and we find who the author was or fix any errors that they were said and polish it up. And it makes it a completely different animal. But why not start promoting the book while you're creating the book? So this gives so much momentum. For example, one of my clients' books, her book's called The Vitality Solution. It's all about health and well-being. And the book's scheduled to come out in August. And it's already an award-winning book. It got a 5-star review from Literary Titan, because part of my process is, hey, let's do the marketing before the book comes out and apply for awards. And she's like, well, I'm an award-winning author. Yes, you are. So, it's really wonderful to see her identity shift as she steps into the movement that she's trying to start. So, for example, she was at age 45, was told by Western medicine doctors that she had to put her affairs in order, and she had 6 months to live. She was in a wheelchair. She couldn't even really talk coherently. She felt like she had to fast forward what it would be like to be 95. And she said, no, I'm not going to die in 6 months and leave my husband and my sons. And so she leaned into holistic medicine, and she saved her own life. And now she's out there trying to help other people who may be suffering and who may have no hope, and let them know, hey, here are some things that worked for me. Perhaps if you're not getting the results you want from Western medicine, you might want to try these things: fasting, IV medicine, mindfulness, etc. So she's doing her bit to change the world, and I did my bit by helping her create a book.
Mm. The things that we've learned about ourselves. I mean, I can't even imagine what my grandmother would have done with this stuff. I mean, just, we have come so far, right, about the things we know about the human body, the mind, these processes are here, what you're doing, right? I mean, imagine what it was like to write a book back then, right? You just to figure that out. And now you've got coaches who can really take you. And I think one of the things you talk about is 27xing the book. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Let's talk about that. So one of the things I really want to bust is it's not about social media. It's really about your message. Your message really matters. And I think what I want people to know is double down on being human. So for example, that little story I just told you about my client, that's her story of humanity and all its flaws and messiness, but it made her commitment to health. And now she's helping other people with that. So many people double down on hiring the right people, what are the right processes, what are the right Facebook ads, and they double down on crunching the numbers on that. But sometimes we forget to pay as much attention to the stories that we share. So Steve Jobs practiced for 3 weeks before doing an Apple launch. He practiced what to say, when to pause, how to deliver his message, where to stand, and the result was buying frenzy. And I think every one of us, each one of us, have that opportunity if we decide to lean into crafting our message and treating our stories like the gold that they actually are. Many people think, oh, I'm selling X. What does it matter about the stories? No, the stories,
It's everything.
are everything. Exactly. There was an experiment done, reported in the book Significant Objects. They put 100 distinct objects on eBay with a story or without a story. And they were transparent about what they were doing. The result was that the objects with a story, and they were written by professional writers, amateur writers, 100 different writers. And they weren't like hype, they were just stories. And the objects with a story sold for 27 times more. And an example of the story would be, here's some pot mitts. I remember coming home from school, my grandmother would take chocolate chip cookies out of the oven with these pot mitts. And I remember sitting down with a glass of milk and cookies, and it was such a warm experience. That story adds significance to the pot mitts, which actually creates value, even though you don't get the cookies or the grandmother. It adds value. In fact, when I took my MBA, we studied this with wine, and people who had the story that they were drinking a $500 bottle of wine versus a $5 bottle of wine, actually their taste buds and their neurons in their brain fired differently because the story actually added real value to the visceral experience of drinking the wine or the experience of using those pot mitts. So don't underestimate the value of adding stories. And I encourage everybody to come up and collect multiple stories from your own life, from your clients' lives, from the problems that you solve, from the things that you're passionate about, and then work on distilling them to the essence of the gold to make them clear, compelling, and concise.
I like that. Look, I think the story helps anchor it into an emotion, right?
Mhm.
That story brings me. Look. I won't forget forever. 5 years from now, you and I will talk about another podcast, and we'll remember this cookie story, right? For some reason it has it stand out as opposed to had we talked about just mitts. You wouldn't get it, right? But now I remember Grandma's mitts and the chocolate chip cookies. You could almost bring your senses back to seeing it and smelling it in the moment, right? It actually paints a cool picture for you in your brain. You can actually see. I could see my grandmother making making chocolate chip cookies with those mitts on.
Exactly right. Or your story about helping the girls in India at that school and how your kids initially resisted, oh, dad. And then that's what stands out to them as most meaningful, afterwards. So that also lands, right? It anchors.
Wow.
It anchors the abstract into the concrete. And a clear, specific story is a little breadcrumb leading people in the right direction that you'd like them to go.
That's amazing. So talk to me a little bit about AI in the book in book writing. I just did a website. I was talking about using AI to write books. Talk to me about what's the right placement. How do you take AI and help incorporate that into the book writing process?
Well, I am an optimist in life, so I'm an optimist about AI. I think that it's a tool. It's like when they invented the car, people were like, ah,
Yeah.
what get a faster and horses and carriages were faster than cars at the beginning, so they're like, you know, noisy horses carriages. Anyway, I think AI is a wonderful tool, and but it needs to be in the hands of a master. So if you give AI the task of writing you a book, it'll write you a crap book. But if you are a masterful storyteller already, you can leverage some of the aspects of AI to help you do it more quickly, or to check, to proof it, to tighten it, to check for things. Like I use Pro Writing Aid, which helps to check for repeated words. So if you have a 90,000 word document, it's like onerous to remember which words have you been repeating, but it will tell you, hey, this author used the word just 214 times. You can maybe reduce that, right? Or there's certain word patterns that an author might have. And I will use Pro Writing Aid to just mix that up at the end when we get towards the end so that it feels more fresh to the reader. And the author's fine. They don't have to change the way that they're speaking. We can fix that, very quickly. I like to use things like to test the titles and subtitles. I actually only partly AI. There's a service called PickFu, and you can get 50 people to give you their feedback on a title, what they liked about the title, what they don't like about the title. I use ChatGPT. Claude, I think, is a better writer than ChatGPT, but the prompts matter so much. But I also use, I don't know if you use Notebook LM.
Sure.
You using that?
Sure.
So what I love about Notebook LM, like with one of my authors, Michael Stockham, we're working on 9 legal thrillers. This gets to be an enormous number of words. What I like about Notebook LM is it doesn't make stuff up, which ChatGPT does. So I can put in, say, 3 whole books, which would be almost 300,000 words. And I can just ask it, give me a plot synopsis. Tell me about this character. And I can make sure that the character arcs over 9 books are working the way that I want. It's like a confirmation, like a check. Like I have the master blueprint in my mind with the author, how we want the characters to arc, but then we can just confirm that we didn't, that's actually happening by using Notebook LM. The other thing I love for Notebook LM, I have somebody on my team who does videos for me and for my clients to help promote books. And you can feed in a chapter or a whole book, and then you can click on the studio, and there'll be like a podcast type discussion of the book or the chapter, which then you can clip 30 seconds and make a nice little video to help promote the book and promote the author and their business. And so it just makes so many things, 100 times faster. Although there's also reject that. That's no good. But we'll take these ones.
I'd like to figure out what I'm doing wrong faster. Ultimately,
yeah.
It's okay. Look, I realize that as an entrepreneur, I have done a lot. In fact, I think that's one of the things Jordan Peterson always talks about. If you're not willing to go step in being an idiot, it's very unlikely you'll ever become a master. And going through that is kind of a fun dance to learn about yourself. That's okay. It's all right to go through that.
Yeah. And then Night Cafe and Runway are great for creating videos. Like I love actually creating a storyboard. I'll create a storyboard. I have a fantasy series too, Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse.
Ooh,
so
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, audience, we'll put a link to that down below. When did that come out?
It came out last year, Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse. There's 3 books. The second one just came out, The Secret Multiverse Academy, and the third one is coming out in August.
Are you any of the characters in there? Are you
not any of the characters? Although, as an author, you cannot help but reveal yourself. So there's parts of me in each of the characters. It's a young adult fantasy. It's sort of like, Narnia, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, with a little bit of Doctor Who because it's the multiverse and they get to travel through the multiverse. So that's fun.
What, I thought you had another. You said you had another one.
There's 3 books in this series.
Fun.
I just have one in hand.
Well, I'll make sure that we'll put the link to those down below.
Okay.
And audience members, I want to make sure that you guys go out and support Aurora in the book writing that she does. And by the way, if they're looking for a coach like you, look, I've got a book. I'm ready to go. I just talked to a guy this afternoon who's getting ready to finish a book up, and he's there. If they want to get a hold of you and have you come support them through that process of going from completing the book, right, or almost completing the book, to getting it out on the marketplace, how do they engage with a coach like you?
Oh, the best thing to do, well, firstly, it's probably best to read Turn Words into Wealth first, which you can get for free at turnwordsintowealth.com. So you understand who I am and who I can serve, and 7 different ways to monetize your book. And then they can, in that book, it tells you how to contact me. You can go to bookcall.biz, and you can book a complimentary business breakthrough call with me. Or you can just go to samepagepublishing.com, and you can see the people that I've helped and their award-winning books, stuff like that, and then you can book a call from there. So I love helping people with their books, and I love helping them even if they're just at the idea stage, even if they're like, I know I want to write a book, but I'm not sure exactly what about. But I excel at helping entrepreneurs and experts and thought leaders who want to take their business to the next level because I am a serial entrepreneur. So I'm best at serving those people. So if you have a poetry book and you don't have a business, I would probably not be your best choice. But if you are an entrepreneur or an expert or a leader or somebody who wants to make a bigger difference in the world, then go to bookcall.biz and book a call. And I'd love to chat with you and see how I can help you.
Aurora Winters, you are just legendary. Who you are to this world is just a gift. It's a real gift for us to have you on the show. It's one of those things where I love bringing people who help us, figure out this path. Right. A lot of us, are trudging the road and finding a coach like yourself that will help guide us through that. Audience, take advantage of this. Right now, you get to learn about Winter or Aurora and find out about what she does, and be able to bring her onto your process of helping you develop this. Don't be shy. Look, all I can tell you is that the best things that have ever happened to me is on the other side of coaching, right? In both in my family, in my business, in just about all aspects of my life, even in the sports world when I was an athlete. I think all of the above are there. So take advantage of that opportunity if you are writing a book now.
Thank you, Anthony. And such a joy connecting with you and being on your podcast.
Well, it's been a joy having you. Audience members, last week it was amazing. We had 4,500 downloads last week. It was crazy the number of downloads we had. But we noticed a lot of you guys had made it to the end of the podcast, but you hadn't subscribed yet. If you could take a second and do that right now, it means a world of difference to Alyssa and Joe and the whole team in the background that put this podcast together. They get us amazing guests like Aurora. And, it does make a difference having the numbers for our guests to come on and see what we do. So if you could take a second and do that now, I would be so grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.